Welcome. We are kicking off Nexi Talks of this year's Money 2020 here in Amsterdam. We are focusing on what makes Nexi's issuing licensing model a winning one and how this translates to the wider European market. My name is Peter Glüsing, I'm from Nets Nordic, and I would like to welcome you, Alessandro Piccioni. You are heading marketing, cards and digital payments here in Nexi Group. My first question to you is, please tell us and the audience why issuing licensing is a winning model.
When talking about licensing model, what we actually mean is a co-issuing model in partnership with banks, fintech and corporates, in which Nexi basically performs a variety of activities covering the entire value chain of cards issuing and management. In a way, you can think of licensing as a turnkey solution for banks that can retain the most important features of their relationship with the client, such as marketing activities, as well as pricing and sales. It's a very convenient model, both from an economic perspective. I would say it's a net revenue model in which there is a revenue sharing between Nexi and the bank. But most of all, it's very convenient for banks, corporates, and fintech is that they can actually have advantages that they wouldn't have differently if performed by themselves. The first one is economies of scale. Economies of scale are quite important in this business. We actually manage the scheme management activities, as well as the card production and personalization. The second one is time to market. We can actually have a better time to market thanks to the economies of scale and investments that we have done in the past and we continuously do to bring innovative solutions to market. And that ranges from more traditional payment solutions to mobile and digital services. The third is distinctive services. Frauds, prevention and detection is one. Another one is customer value management, which is quite important in our environment in order to generate engagement and loyalty. The fourth one, I would say, is keeping pace with regulatory items and also with the evolution of the market. Especially, I'm thinking of e-commerce, e-com authentication, PSD2, and so on. We are actually able to bring this best of breed to the variety of our client base with a very low cost compared to what they could have done individually.
In towards what is actually the narrow scope of the licensing offer. Can you please tell me what is this in essence?
As we said, one of the scopes is to bring the best of breed of products within the consumer cards payments. This means that we are able to offer the broad range of traditional payment products on the consumer side, such as prepaid, debit and credit, both from retail and a commercial perspective, therefore for consumers and for corporates that can range from large corporates to SMEs or micro SMEs. The second is obviously the services that I was mentioning before, covering the value chain more on the loyalty and engagement side. And therefore, it's not just about cards or about wallets or about mobile payments, but it's also about the corollary items that can go around the relationship with the consumer. The third, which has become more and more important over time, is certainly the digital properties. Those can range from just spending control and wallet solutions to actually payment means that they are mobile native and digital native, and that can be applied to certain industry in a vertical way, and they can be obviously itemized and customized to the certain needs of the clients.
So how do you see the market right now? Is there a large push for this, or what's the potential here?
We're actually seeing a great demand also internationally. We obviously started this over time in Italy. It's a model that we have performed and managed for more than 20, 30 years. And obviously that evolved and changed over time. Nowadays, we are bringing this model abroad, and like the demand and the push that we're having from banks, corporates, and fintechs is quite interesting. We are obviously devising now a platform that can allow us to go internationally with a standardized architecture. That means that our clients with different needs and with different perspective and background, they can actually pick and choose what they want to have and how the licensing should look like for them. Obviously, you have a world, those of corporates and fintech, in which the standardization is more needed and is also more welcome, while another world with banks, tier 2, tier 3, but also increasingly tier 1, in which customization and the tailor-made approach that we have been devising in Italy has actually been very successful, and it's needed also because the legacy IT needs a sort of very specialized attitude and expertise.
You also mentioned the regulatory items here in the EU. What does this mean to this? Does that mean that you have to create a one model approach all across Europe in sense of this?
There are actually economies of experience and of scale when thinking about going abroad, and that's the reason why we are doing it with a standardized platform and architecture that actually allows you to seize these economies of scale and obviously give that to prospective clients. And this is from a compliance regulatory perspective, obviously, because PSD2 applies to the majority of those. Central banks have obviously like a very similar stance towards some regulatory issues in cards and digital payments. We are seeing, as we speak, also around account to account and crypto nowadays. And therefore, having a single standardized platform helps a lot to deliver what we need to deliver. At the same time, this standardized approach, as I said before, can actually be customized to the needs of the peculiar bank.
So you also said to me some minutes ago that building this upon the Nexi's 25 years of legacy, and maybe also putting this together with Nets and SIA in this huge group, has a great potential in Europe. But in this new model, are you also perceiving the blooming of fintech proposition as a sort of threat, or maybe this is a big opportunity?
I think the answer is twofold. On the one hand, I guess fintechs have shown the Marqeta, the Stripe issuing of this world, they actually shown that there is a market for it that we haven't tapped up until now. But it's actually there, and it's very, I'd say, bubbling. There are like corporates reaching out both for debit and for credit solutions. And the funny thing is that here at Money 2020, we actually have heard for years that cars would have disappeared. And like the more I work in this field, and the more I see that actually cars are alive and well, and they're asked by corporates, by fintechs themselves, etc. And so, like, to come back to your question, I guess fintechs are actually an opportunity for us, because the fintech world is getting more and more specialized, and that means that the European paytech, Nexi, can actually have its say not only with like more traditional partners, but also like with newcomers, and we're actually able with the standardized platform that I've mentioned before to serve them as well.
So that was quite interesting to hear how you see fintech proposition and the the huge amount of opportunities here. But should there or are there any models that we should consider in Europe or as a company like Nexi Group that could be used in this field?
I think for us, also given our expertise in the field and like our background and the day-by-day business that we're running, licensing remains the first and foremost our most important solution. On the credit side, I believe there is an opportunity at the European level, especially in continental Europe when thinking about Italy itself, but also Germany and France, where the penetration of credit cards is quite low, to think about a slightly different model that I would call referral, in which the credit risk is not retained by banks that sometimes have like problems actually for capital absorption or like corporates that have no credit risk policy really, not being like financial institutions, where the credit risk is actually taken aside from banks and they can actually retain all the advantages of being a distribution channel and a referral fee generator. So basically there could be a model on top of licensing whenever there is an opportunity to tap that it's outside the risk policies of our clients, in which we can really help and get like the penetration of credit that is so difficult to change actually to improve in the next few years. Also for a matter of financial inclusion, I think, and BNPL has shown actually that there is quite a need for microcredit towards the consumers for like short duration, low tickets, and I think like having them to get a credit card is something that should be top of mind for institutions like ours.
So it's quite interesting to hear your thoughts about how Europe is maturing in certain markets. You mentioned Italy, Germany. So how do you see these markets? Are they up to speed at the same limit, or will we see some more years to come before we are on mark here?
There are actually many differences among those markets. Fun enough, although like culturally speaking, I would see them as different. Germany and Italy have a lot of similarities in terms, obviously, of payments, digital payments penetration, as well as credit card penetration. And so, like the approach to credit is quite similar. France is a little bit ahead, and obviously, like the Nordics are quite ahead, of those markets. There is a catching up happening, like every time there is like a secular trend, there is always this catching up happening. It's a slow market in general. There are a lot of innovations, a lot of new things and like ideas and services, but what really makes a difference is adoption. And the adoption sometimes takes time, and we see it in our business, we see it in our competitors' business especially.
Great. So to sum up our discussion here, so as I understand, we will see that the aim for a paytech company like Nexi is to build a custom-made proposition abroad, defining a value proposition that fits with bank needs, looking into what their needs are. It also seems like issuing licensing is a winning model if you succeed by involving these co-issuing business models with end-to-end services, fully exploiting innovation roadmaps. Thank you very much, Alessandro Piccioni. The next Nexi talk is scheduled to go live at 1 o'clock at this stage, and the topic here is BNPL and how this can increase trust between businesses and consumers. Hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.